Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On Point EDC. Today I have a really cool review for you guys from the brand Panasonic. A little about them. They are founded back in 1918. They are Japanese in origin and now have factories throughout Asia, with the Lumix brand being their digital camera division established in 2001. The name Lumix stands for the smart and sustainable combination of optical and digital imaging technology. Lumi for luminance and mix for mixture, specializing in the enthusiast and prosumer market with consumer grade, products with professional capabilities. Now, in terms of the type of product, this is an EDC camera, or an everyday capable camera in terms of size, build quality, and versatile capabilities. This is the Lumix GX85, and if you're outside of North America, you might know it as the GX80, which is its international nomenclature, or the GX7MK2 if you are in the Japanese domestic market. This was originally released in 2016 and has recently found a resurgence of popularity on the used market as more compact digital cameras have regained favor with casual shooters. This is a rangefinder style mirrorless camera featuring a 5-axis image stabilization as well as dual IS capabilities for native Lumix lenses. We'll select native Lumix lenses at that. And I do have this on the Lumix 20mm f1.7, and this is the 2, so this does have the upgraded housing, which is, a little bit more premium than the version 1. And this has a 40mm full frame equivalent in terms of the field of view because this is on a micro four thirds sensor. It does have 17 megapixels, but actually shoots about 16 max megapixels. So there's what the sensor size is, and then there's the effective, after the different crop factors. Now, of course, the micro four thirds sensor is named after its 4:3 aspect ratio, and it doesn't mean that it's just like super small or 4/3 of anything in terms of its size. It's really just a 4:3 aspect ratio. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out a little bit, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, so the form factor here is really fantastic in terms of the ergonomics and the layout. I'm a big fan. Of course, you got the little you got the lens cap there. Took it off for effect in the beginning, but this is a cool one, and this is one of the color variations, probably one of its lesser popular ones. Normally people have it in all black. Actually, my wife has the same camera and it's in all black. For the Japanese domestic market, there actually was another option as well, where it was a brighter silver that was on the top and the bottom and really all across the back, versus here it's pretty much all blacked out with just the small silvery section up top. I do have this on a Peak Designs neck strap, and I do like this a lot, especially since it is adjustable and it's very simple to adjust. And this is part of the street kit, so I mean, there's been a million GX80 and GX85 reviews. So again, this is more specific to being an everyday carry kit. So it's kind of as a set, right, in terms of what I would recommend, for others, right? So one of the things I like about this is, since it is very easy to adjust, right, you can boom, very easily. The nice thing is you can have it tighter around your neck, so you can wear it a little bit shorter and higher up on your chest, or you can really make this long and then you can sling it like over one shoulder and carry it almost like a bag, which I think is cool, especially considering depending on what lens you're going to use. Here you can see with this pancake style of lens layout here with the 20mm, this is great. And I, of course, there's a little bit of fashion involved there because I did get the silver model versus the all blacked out, just to have a little bit of tie in there. And I just think it looks fun, looks really cool, and just adds a bit of contemporary style to it. There are other lenses that are out there that are great. I've shot with this with other lenses, but my default seems to be this nice little 20mm, and a lot of that has to do with just how it's kind of a sweet spot, right? But before we dive too deep into the use cases and everything, what I'll like to do is talk a little bit more about some of the specs on this. So with that said, this does shoot in both JPEG and RAWs. I pretty much just shoot JPEGs, and I don't go in and kind of edit and get too deep into that side of it. For me, I'm shooting much more documentarian styles of photography. The EDF has a 2,700,064,800 dots in terms of the resolution there. So we can maybe pop that on. I don't know if the camera is going to be able to get in there. Probably not, but it's there. So very cool. And then when it comes to the LCD screen, it is a 3-inch tilting touchscreen, and it does have about 1,040,000 dots. And you can see here, very nice if you were going to be shooting kind of low. And this is kind of what I like to do here, is kind of have it at this spot where I can look down, I have the screen out, I can, go ahead and then kind of go point and shoot. And then if I'm lower, and I want to shoot a higher angle, I can do that, and I can kind of hold that up, and then I can see if I'm in a crowd or something like that. So that is pretty nice. And then you can see, I do have some family photos, as I took. And what I'll do is I'll actually start from now till the end of the video. I'll start cycling in some photos to give you guys an idea of some of the captures that I've taken with this camera and lens setup. Another nice feature is that it does have a built-in flash. Check that out. Very, very cool there. So that's going to work in terms of, giving you a bit more of that nostalgic feel. And then the nice thing is it's also, you can see the lens pulsing as it's, so pretty old school, a little bit loud, very slow. I shouldn't say very slow. It's definitely slower than most of the other modern lenses out there, but it definitely does the job. Also, I don't know if it's just a limiting factor with the GX85 pairing it with this, it actually does turn off continuous autofocus, and it just goes to single autofocus, at least on my example, but chime in if you're aware of similar limitations. If I put this on my G9 II that I'm filming this episode with, this is, I don't know, it spruces up and it's able to kind of do more, but on this camera it's very simple. But I mean, that's kind of what it is. And the nice thing is with this little spring action, if you did want to bounce the light there as you were taking it with the flash, that works also. And another nice thing you can do with flash that I think goes a little underappreciated is if you are something backlit, right, and you're out in the sunlight. For me, I live in San Diego County, so it's really bright and nice weather most of the time. So with that, right, if you want to get the stuff in the background and it's really bright, if you turn the flash on, it can fill, your subject's faces, you're taking pictures of your family and stuff. So I think that is nice. It's a good feature to have, especially in something in that kind of everyday field. And of course it does tuck away nicely. And, things like just having a little hot shoe cover, that's not super common with newer cameras, so it's nice. And I do have a screen protector on the same type of screen protector. I think it's JJC, where you would, it's just hardened glass there, so we'll protect it from scratches. Doesn't protect it from fingerprints, but you know what? You're gonna get fingerprints on here because it's a touch screen, so I'm not too worried about that. Now, in terms of the price point on this, guys, these originally retailed for right under $600 with a kit lens, and now they range anywhere from $400 to upwards of $800, kind of depending on, of course, the condition, the package completeness, and the location. So take that, for what you will. I'd say it's still a great value in that $400 to $500 range. Once you start getting a little bit higher, there are some other options that you might want to look at. But again, if you're looking for this camera specifically, if you've already shot with it and you're trying to go back to it and it's just something you miss because of the ergonomics, because of the layout, because of the really kind of user-friendly setup, then you're going to be willing to pay more based off of that nostalgia, right? And a lot of people on YouTube are going to be willing to pay more. But that doesn't mean that you should necessarily pay more, right? So I do enjoy this. I do use it as a dedicated stills camera, although it does have 4K video up to 30 frames per second, which is great. Also with that, it's nicely stabilized, so it does have, of course, the in-body image stabilization, and then depending on what lens you use, typically if you had like a zoom lens or something like that, you would have it with the built-in IS that will be built into, let's say, the lens. Like the lens I have on the camera that I'm recording on right now is actually a 12 to 35 Panasonic Leica zoom lens, and it does have also, you know, built-in image stabilization and all of that. But typically for something that's going to be a little bit on the wider side, they're not going to have any type of built-in image stabilization. It's going to be more so on the telephoto side, maybe at the 42.5. Like those lenses are going to have built-in image stabilization, because of course you're going to be zoomed in more, so that's where you're going to have a little bit more shake and rock. If you have something a little bit wider, you know, you're using the 9mm, which I use quite a bit, you know, you don't necessarily worry about it as much. Here it's more of a standard size with an equivalent to a 40mm for full frame, so you know, it's somewhere in the middle, so you don't necessarily need all that, especially if you do have really good in-body image stabilization. One thing I did want to mention, which I noticed a lot of people don't do, is they don't swap out the triangles on here. When you buy these and they come from Peak Design, they actually come with circular loops, which work so much better. So I just want to point that out. Like, this is just so much better, and it's like there's way less extra slack, way less points of movement. So I will say, and I mean that in a good way, like it's not floppy articulated, like it just articulates the way you would want it to, and it's more predictable on there. So I will say, take the time, swap out the little ring, because normally they'll come with the little triangles and the plastic over it. This is so much better and just so much easier and just moves nicer in your hand and when it's around your neck. So I really do like this camera a whole lot. It feels very, very solid. It's mostly metal. It does have a nice texture, and it does have a nice grip. So it has that kind of leatherette texture to it. Nice grip there. Metal lens release button there. So very cool. You guys can see also, you know, it's only going to have, it's, you know, it's going to have a pretty small battery, but it does the job. I mean, you're going to want to have extra ones. And then you have a one little slot there. Unfortunately, for the video shooters that are out there, as much as I do enjoy using this for B-roll, I can't really use it as a main, because I don't like to record my audio externally. I like for it to just go straight into the camera through a microphone jack. So you don't have that option here. So that's kind of a bummer. But I will say again, I'm not using this for hybrid work. I'm pretty much using it just for dedicated stills. And then the occasional, you know, I'll get some video, and I'll definitely put some video here in the overlay as we go. So for me, guys, I really enjoy this camera, and I know there's been so many other reviews of it, and, you know, from more professional, semi-professional, and enthusiastic folks. But again, I'm really looking at this and approaching it from the point of somebody who's going to take this out for everyday use. Again, average bros, right? So this is something that's more recreational, and it, you know, I will say that it definitely does the job, right? And I think this combination is great in terms of its size. It doesn't have a huge footprint. It is going to be slightly larger than my LX100 Mark II, but with that additional size, you get a lot more versatility by having a different range of lenses, also by having a constant, you know, in this case, f1.7, you know, versus on the LX, where I think it's variable, starts at 1.7, which and then goes up to 2.8, which isn't bad at all. But you know, depending on the lighting situation, it's nice to have, you know, a faster aperture. Now, closing thoughts, guys. In-hand ergonomics, really nice and compact, with a nice heft that just gives that quality, solid feel in hand. And then also in terms of like in transit packability, it is very compact, although larger than a point and shoot, right? That's, you know, that are actually really back in style right now. It's pocketable enough to fit into a jacket pocket with the right lens combo. And you know, is this the right lens combo for you? Maybe, maybe not. It just depends. I do like this, and I do like the versatility that it offers, because you know, when when you're shooting, I guess, more casually and more documentary style, the nice thing is you can have more context. You can have more background within the shot, right? And, you know, standard lens is, you think of 50 millimeters, the nifty 50. This is going to be slightly wider. You can go even wider, and that even, I'd say, even is easier for that type. When you're shooting more deliberately, right, and you're going out and you want composition and you really want to be able to frame it, I will say, you know, the 25 millimeter lens is just going to be a little easier when you're being deliberate and you want to really frame your subjects and you have an idea of what you're shooting ahead of time, right? So yeah, when you're being more deliberate, I think the more standard lenses all the way into telephoto, right? If you have a particular portrait lens, they're going to be better for that type of work. But for the use case of just, hey, I'm going to sling this around my neck, I'm going to take it with me out to dinner, I'm going to take it with me out to the zoo, wherever, I'm going to take it with me, you know, to a kid's trip or something like that, with the fam, and I just, you know, we're at the beach. Something like this is going to be more versatile and I think easier because you're going to be able to get the subject in the photo and then you're going to be able to get some context around it, right? Because again, it's more about capturing the living moments versus trying to create a particularly beautiful frame that's interesting, right? So there's, you know, it's dual uses, and that's something that I did kind of appreciate and do appreciate about this particular setup. Although I will say I do have the 15 millimeter Leica f1.7 on the way, but that's probably going to be more so shot with on my G9 II that I'm filming this on for some more specific photography versus just general photography like this one, where it's going to be, again, more general and kind of just run and gun style. So getting into model variants, guys, since in Japan this is considered the GX7 Mark II, that puts it right between the original GX7 and the GX9, which in Japan would be the GX7 Mark III. So those are some of the different variations in terms of the body line across time. And, you know, you can save a little bit of money and get an original GX7, or you can spend a little bit more and get a GX9. In terms of comparable models, and, you know, I would say cameras that are still available new, that's where it gets tough because there's not a lot of competition in this size range, which I think is one of the reasons why these have become so desirable on the used market. People kind of want something that's going to be, you know, still feels like a legit camera, has enough megapixels, and guys, 16 megapixels is plenty, 12 megapixels is plenty. So it's one of those things that I think we've just kind of been a little bit, you know, brainwashed when it comes to some of the megapixel count stuff, just because phones are using higher megapixel rates, and, you know, we kind of associate that with quality in terms of having extra resolution. But in terms of sharpness, a lot of that is going to, and detail and dynamic range, I mean, there's a lot more that goes into that, and a lot of it, of course, is going to be lens associated. So if you can have an interchangeable lens system, especially one that's going to offer you, you know, some nice in-camera, in-body image stabilization, then I think that's great, and it makes a case for itself here, right? You can use this one-handed, which is great, and again, it's hefty enough to where it feels like it is a quality piece of gear, but it's not so heavy to where it's going to weigh you down, so I like that. I will say that much like wristwatches becoming more and more desirable again for dedicated time telling, dedicated cameras for videos and stills are also becoming more and more popular for a more deliberate and inspired experience, right? Like when you really want to connect to something, then yeah, and really kind of enjoy the experience, right, of the task, and not just wanting the ends, right? Not just wanting the photos, but enjoying taking the photos, right? And then being inspired to go out there and take photos. Something like this. Aesthetics go a long way and ergonomics go a long way. Are there things that are higher spec? Yeah, sure. Are there things that are going to be just as capable? Yeah, absolutely. But are you going to feel inspired to use them and go out and take photos? That's where, I mean, even though I have a camera that is superior to this one, right? And the G9 II that I'm filming this with, absolutely superior in every way, but it's less, it's bigger, right? So it's less convenient. And a little bit less inspiring, right? Because then it's the best camera is the one you have with you, and I think this is makes a great case for one that you can absolutely carry with you every day. So, you know, all in all, the GX85 with the 20mm f1.7 is a bit of a street classic at this point for its solid build, combined with great ergonomics and its intuitive layout, right? In terms of the dials, the tactile engagement, it's just quality all the way around. And, you know, I think more and more folks are starting to come to appreciate those aspects of it. Now, it offers a capable platform. It's very versatile shooting experience as a just clean out of camera JPEG and crispy 4K video, you know, equipped camera. So I really dig that. I like it a whole lot, guys, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. I have a feeling most of you watching this are people who have shot and owned this camera in the past. And if you're new to this, then, you know, you can be like me, because one of the reasons why I really got into this camera was watching people's videos, and what they were able to do with this camera really did inspire me to, you know, pick one up at a great price. And you know, lightly used, had, you know, full kit. All I had to do was get a new lens for it, because yeah, the 20mm lens wasn't something that I already had in my in my camera bag, because I already had the 25mm, and then I also had some wider lenses, and I have, you know, this zoom, the 12 to 35. So didn't necessarily need this one, but again, in terms of that form factor and pairing with this, it just feels like, you know, this is pretty much the default setting for me for this camera, is to leave it on this really great lens. But with that said, let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.